What up, you guys? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast, where we will be taking a look at the week ahead to see what kind of energy we will be living in. We have some anxious participants coming out already. Over the weekend, let's see, the Secret Teachings of Jesus episode last night was really good. I had an extra video I released, I think Friday, and it was from I just had an impromptu Bible study that I got deep into it, and then I had all these insights, and so I did some voice notes that became like this whole thing, and I was like, this is totally worth just stringing these together and posting them. So look for my playlist. So Secret Teachings of Jesus is its own playlist, and that's where we are in the Gnostic Gospels. Look for Secret Teachings Bible Study. That's a new playlist I started, and you can find the video there. But it was really fire, and I've been thinking about the sermon ever since. It was just really, really good. So go check that out. Thank you guys for all of your watch hours. We've really been bumping those up. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but recently I finally got my 1,000 subscribers. And in order to monetize the channel, which I think will get me out into the algorithm a little bit more, I need 4,000 watch hours in a 365-day cycle, in a block of 365 days. So it doesn't accumulate over time. It's just like the brackets keep moving with the time. And so for a long time, I was hovering at about 1,000 or like 1,100. And I have boosted that up to 1,156 hours. So just 2,500 to go, you guys. They're actually more like 3,000 to go. So, but we have bumped up. So it had plateaued there for quite some time. So I'm very encouraged to see that growing. And yeah, one thing you guys can do to also help me is in the comments below, if you want to let me know like who you are, how long are you a new subscriber, or have you been coming back to the channel for a while? What is it that you come back here for? What's your favorite thing in the channel that we talk about or we learn about? Are you here for like spiritual guidance and then it just happens to be like tarot involved? Or are you like a tarot person and then all of a sudden you're getting like the spiritual wisdom? Are you looking for a channel that offers you both? I am not necessarily changing my content, but I want to be able to narrow down my like titles and my keywords and things so that I can reach the people that actually can benefit from these messages and who are going to want to see them. And so I'm trying to get more search engine friendly in the algorithm. So if you guys let me know about yourselves, that gives me some help. And also it helps me when I am thinking about, like, for instance, like random thoughts that come up and I'm like, oh, this would make a good video. If you guys plant seeds on what you want to know about, I can kind of start directing some curriculum your way. Maybe even build courses for you guys. One thing that I dream of doing as part of making this a career is creating courses and workshops for you that will help you and benefit you. And so it will help me to know where your pain points are and what you need and what you find most interesting. And speaking of pain points and things to help you, I went back myself and I've been trying to stay off social media and just stay out of the negativity and do what I can to do positive things and make change where I can and be effective where I can. And so the other day I was just like redecorating the kitchen and doing some projects in there, and I was listening to my prediction series. So I made the 2025 prediction series. You can access that in my link below. It's $10 in my Stan store. But I was listening specifically to the winter quarterly reading, and then I went back and listened to January again, and I listened to February's reading, and I couldn't believe how on point the advice was, and what a great reminder it was to just hone in and snap out of it and get disciplined. Because even though, like, when I recorded these, it was in December, like November, December of 2024. So I did not know how 2025 was going to be. I mean, who could have predicted how freaking, like, turned up to 11 2025 is? So the context, I'm just thinking, like, new timeline. We've got it together now. Finally, we're going to be, maybe just be wrestling with our own, shortcomings. I just didn't see Armageddon playing out like it did. But even having said that, the advice is so spot on. Because this year already in January right off the bat, the first card was like anxiety, fear. And it's all about, so far, January and February, about having to have that discipline to stay focused and to not show up for your dreams when you feel like it, but every day. Because, boy, I have been suffering from the collective low-level depression, or maybe aggressive depression, that many people are in right now, just at the state of things, like taking it all in. It's really intense, and intense is like, it's the word. So it's been hard even for me when I know I'm disciplined and I show up every day to I feel like I'm in a fog and kind of disconnected, and I'm not as present and passionate and focused and intentional as I should be right now. And so it was really helpful to have that reminder and sort of snap back into it. So it's going to be an invaluable tool to have throughout the year. You've got a yearly reading with channeled messages from me, quarterly readings, and monthly readings. And all of the readings come with specific, like, journal questions to help you go deeper into the work and have more insight into the lessons that you're facing at the moment and the tests. The universe is going to be giving us opportunities and tests all year long. You know what tests are? They're opportunities. They're even bigger opportunities than your opportunities are. And when you are in a moment that's difficult or triggering, there's gold in that moment that you can unlock if you can practice self-control and not be reactive in that moment, not fall back into negative patterning. So every day is a new trial and a new test and a new day to make effort, but that's why it's a devotion. That's why it's a discipline. That's why it's a practice. So let's get into the reading. For this week, we have hope coming up with these butterflies coming up out of the hand. I think that this week is going to provide a lot of the metamorphosis. Have you ever been like healing a wound and you've been tending to it and it feels like nothing's happening, nothing's changing, and then suddenly it's like the wound starts to heal? And after like you've been doctoring it for so long, you thought it was never going to heal, it just suddenly starts to heal rapidly. That's kind of what I'm feeling about this week to come. I feel like there's something that's going to be catalytic in our sudden transformation and in our sudden metamorphosis. Even in my own personal reading this week for myself, there was constant themes of butterflies and transformation and a lot of messages of acceptance and forgiveness. We're divided in this country, and there's different leanings within each family, right? And so we can't let temporary situations tear our families apart, even in these stakes, right? I mean, sometimes right now it feels like we're literally living in the book of Revelations, and you're watching the people around you and everybody else thinks that the other person is the one that's gone astray. And everyone feels so passionate and zealous, and which makes them double down in their lostness and in their, and in their position. So, and we all think it's the other one, right? So we have to keep the love present in our families, and we have to accept and forgive one another no matter what. And that is going to be pivotal. I think it's going to make a huge difference. Just like our own healing when we heal ourselves, it has an effect on the world. Like, we can't just go out and try to like save the world, right? But when we heal ourselves, it does make a difference. It tips the scales, and it affects the people around you and the way that you interact with people. And subtly over time, it does make a difference, and through your decisions, and they compound, right? So think about that too. Our own healing is not a luxury, it's a requirement. And so too, the healing within our families makes a difference. And it heals and it changes people. Like, remember in the 90s when like gay people weren't just like a normal part of society, and there was so much homophobia, and there was so much like extremism through from the church, like that Westboro Baptist Church. I don't know if they're still doing their thing. I bet they are, but it's like nobody cares about them anymore because, you know, we've become more loving people, right? And in many instances that happened because we got to know, like for instance, Ellen, the talk show host, and we became emotionally more invested in her. But aside from like iconic gay characters on TV and like written within sitcoms, which helped humanize people when maybe people didn't know a gay person in their life, what I remember making the biggest difference were when very conservative families, when their gay family members started coming out. And it would be very challenging for the families. And some families, it would divide and split them apart. And there would be a lot of chaos and upheaval and pain. And it's still like that to this day. And it's so sad that there are still people that have to live closeted lives because of, you know, not wanting to have the backlash of the, you know, of the division that it might cause within their families. And then other families, it was a thing that brought them together. And where people, you know, would have had prejudices before because like their daughter or their son came out, they became it opened their eyes and it opened their hearts and into acceptance. And, you know, they even in some cases became involved in the gay communities, not as a gay people, but as gay proxies, right? As parents of gays and things. So, you know, a lot of, and that spilled out into the zeitgeist, you know. So love and healing, they happen first within the self, and then they happen within the family unit amongst one another. And then that from there like spills out into the community, you know, and everybody in the family goes out, and then they have an effect on the people around them. So I think that we needed to vote to keep the love in our hearts and to choose love and to choose unity over division. When we choose unity and brotherhood for all, right? Not just for our own group, but when we truly unite as a human family, that is a very powerful thing. And it draws blessing and oneness and wholeness and goodness and prosperity and abundance. But when we create division and separation, it actually cuts us off from our blessings. And it creates sickness and poverty and suffering. So the egg, the infected egg here, what is the seed level of the infection right now that is causing the festering infection, right? We are transforming the root of the infection. We're looking for that. What is getting into the seed level of everything? Look at this egg. It's been ruined. You know, it's dead. It's been eaten through. It's dried up. You know, it's decayed. It looks toxic now. It's infected. It's malignant, right? What is it that's creating this malignance, because we need what right now that's what's being dealt with. That's where the transformation is happening. Right? Look at the snake here. It's deceit. It's slippery, sneaky, snake in the grassness. But there's also the aspect of the snake that is transformational, and it talks about rebirth and renewal. So that's what we're looking for. We're shining a light on the darkness, and we're obliterating it, because you know what? When you're looking at people who are shrouded in darkness, they're angry, they're miserable, they are not feeling good, they're feeling horrible, and they're feeling horror, and they're feeling fear, and they're feeling insecurity, and they're feeling sadness, and they're feeling obsolete, and they're feeling insignificant, and they're feeling ignorant, and they're feeling stupid, and they're feeling left out. That creates that toxic, infected attitude and mindset. But when you shine acceptance on that, when you shine inclusivity on that, when you expose this person, when their mind opens up even just for moments, and their heart opens up just for moments, and they feel good, and they feel and they feel what it's like to be unified and inclusivity, and they feel the joy, right? And they're educated a little bit, and they're made more aware. That feeling of the fulfillment of the light of the Creator awakening someone from darkness, it feels so good that it melts away the desire to want to hold on to this that serves nothing, that keeps you bound in hell. Honestly, this is the ego. This is the Egypt that we are metaphorically breaking away from every Passover. We're exposing that infected, that infection that festers and that gets into the source of everything and spills out and infects everything else. So that's that ego mindset, the world system. We search for it, and we search the house for every crumb to clean it, right? To prepare for that exodus. So we are bringing forth hope, right? Hope is infectious. Hope is contagious. Hope is seductive, right? Fear can be very seductive too, but when you feel that like shit day and night and it's doing nothing for you, and you get a little taste of hope, that's addictive. That's the stuff right there. So no matter how much the infection it's contagious, and it makes us want to get into that mudslinging and, burning and like roasting and like name calling. It's not going to get us anywhere we want to go. It might feel good for an instant, but it's actually breaking us down and stealing our light. And it's the other side is winning. That's how it's tempting, people who feel self-justified, self-righteous, right? So our zealousness, our passion can work against us every bit as much as it can work for us. So we have to be very vigilant and on guard to guard our consciousness and our heart, to make sure that it's pure and it is coming from love, unconditional love, agape love. Because everything starts at the seed level, and the seed level is our consciousness. And so if our consciousness is infected, then everything that we do, all the actions that we take, our thoughts, our feelings, everything that flows through us is infected by that source, that seed level, that consciousness. And if we are in a loving state of consciousness and a creator state of consciousness, a sharing state of consciousness, then everything flows from there too. And our whole perspective changes, and our attitude changes, and the way that we feel changes, and our moods change, and our actions that we take and the words that we speak. Everything changes when you can really change from the inside. So we are fighting this infection with the penicillin of hope and of love and of forgiveness and of encouragement. And I'm not saying that when someone is doing wrong and spewing hate, that they're not supposed to be corrected or called out or made to do right, like, or they're not, like, we should just be like, oh, so accepting and so forgiving that we just like, we're so merciful that we let these people continue to be assholes running roughshod over everyone. No. But being wise about how we do that, because sometimes doing what feels good and justified actually creates more damage. Like, for instance, let's reference my favorite show, The Chosen. So Jesus preached that if someone asks you to walk a mile with them, walk 2. Go with them 2. And the context around that is that in the first century, Romans could grab people up. I mean, and this is something I knew about before the show. They could stop Jewish people and they could force them to carry their packs and their, like, the soldiers' belongings. They could force the Jewish people to carry their stuff for them, but they were only allowed to do it for 1 mile or else they would be punished severely. So when Jesus said, so basically, okay, so he said, when someone asks you to walk with them a mile, go with them 2. So he's talking about specifically this, when the Romans do this. He didn't say, when the Romans ask you to walk. He just said, when someone asks you to walk 1 mile, go with them 2. So people, like, this fell on, like, deaf ears. They didn't really get it in the show. They were like, oh, okay, and that was part of the sermon. But then later, the disciples were walking with Jesus, and they were traveling from town to another town. And they were so excited to get there. They'd been through a lot. They were tired. A bunch of Roman, like, cops, like dickhead Roman cops, Roman soldiers stopped them, and they're like, hey, carry our stuff. And they're putting, like, all their metal helmets on them and making them carry all their, like, gigantic packs of stuff. And I mean, this is like heavy, heavy, heavy stuff. And they're making them walk a mile, and not only are they doing that, but they're also taunting them and making, like, all of these, like, degrading remarks and making it worse and, like, really egging them on. And Jesus is like, just be compliant, don't sass them, just be cooperative. We're gonna cooperate and just do what they say. And so this is after the fact that they heard this in the sermon and they never put it together. And so they're walking, and, some of the disciples are still thinking that Jesus is going to, like, overthrow the government, and he's going to, like, put an army together, and he's going to suddenly be like, ha, fooled you. I am not a pacifist, peaceful person, but I am here to fight. That's never the case. And so sometimes we're like, I can't believe he's letting them get away with this. Like, why would he be letting them, like, he's the Messiah. Like, he shouldn't be taking this shit. And what they don't understand is Jesus' meekness is what makes him so strong, because he's never reactive. The narcissistic energy vampire never gets the hit because he doesn't react. He doesn't respond to them. But in fact, what he does is that after they finish the mile and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great, we can finally put down these packs, Jesus just keeps walking. And the soldiers are like, hey, wait, no, that's okay. You just have to go a mile. It's illegal to go 2 miles. And he's like, well, nobody ever said we couldn't go on our own, right? And they're like, well, hey, we're probably getting in trouble. It's going to be misunderstood. And he's like, look, yeah, you're not allowed to, like, make us take this a mile, or more than 1 mile, but we can do it if we, like, offer, right? And they're like, I guess. And the disciples are like, what? Why is he making us do this? So they keep walking, and Jesus is like, all right, we're going to take all their shit. And don't give them any lip. So the Roman soldiers, like, after they continue on for a minute, they start to feel bad. And the one leader of the pack is like, well, at least let us take our helmets back so there's no confusion. And Jesus is like, if you like. But it's like, all of a sudden, the smart disciples are getting it. Jesus has just shifted the power dynamic. So now these people that had just been bullying them are like, oh, not only I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble, I'm been put into the opposite of the situation, and now I need the mercy. Hey, can you give me my helmet back? And then they stop acting like such dicks. They feel like they're like, wow, we were such dicks, and now these people are just, like, continuing to carry our stuff. but it's not because we made them, it's because they wanted to. It's like when you don't show like the attacker that like they're, you know what I mean? Like you don't give them the satisfaction. So by being just not reactive and sort of like complying of their own, like, oh, okay, well, if this is what you want, like he was showing them subtle ways to take your power back from people. Like it was like it was not only a spiritual booby trap that he like set, but it's like a psychological booby trap that he set. And it was in the most subtle civil resistance way that you can't fault anybody for doing this, but you're basically setting them up to be severely punished. And putting them in a situation where now they're like, hey, can I have my stuff back? And they all stopped them before they went the mile. They were like, here it is. But you know what? We'll just take our stuff. We're just gonna thank you. Nice meeting you. Like they totally turned the situation around. And it wasn't until after the fact that the disciples understood, oh, okay, I get what just happened. Right? But had they been reactive and salty and, you know, things could escalate and they could get, you know, into a tiff and it could all go south, right? Because some of the disciples were like, why don't we fight them? Why don't we do something? And it's like, you're not even armed. These are like huge soldiers with armor on and like spears and shields. Like you have nothing. Like, what are you going to do? Like you have a dagger. Like, so think about that, you know, as Mars goes direct in Cancer. People might be a little saucy after coming out of this malaise and depression. Oh, but back to just re-underscoring that point, your consciousness sets the tone for all the actions and everything that flows through your hands when you're in that state of consciousness. So if you're in a positive state of consciousness, that consciousness is in your actions. And if you are in a negative state of consciousness, that negativity is tainting your actions. So say you're tiffed about something that happened with someone 15 minutes ago on Facebook. This is a common experience on Facebook. I call Facebook the garage sale of people's personalities because it brings out the worst in people, Facebook. So you've just seen something on Facebook that gets you all pissed off and you're like stewing over it, but then you're like answering an email for something else, or you have to go answer like a direct message or something else for an unrelated thing, and you're cordial in your message, nothing in the exchange has anything to do with what's got you pissed off. But yet that energy is in the actions that you're doing subliminally, like on an energetic thing. It's like when someone goes into a gas station and they come out, they smell like gas station. It's like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like your email is still going to smell like gas station because you're mad at the other person. So get yourself in a neutral or positive state before you start taking actions, because the egg can be infected. So make sure you're not in reactivity. Okay. Let's see. I feel like this one is wanting to talk. Ooh, uncover again with the butterflies and the moths. Moths are like death and rebirth, or like resurrection. So they're like another level of the transformation of the butterflies. We have this person digging in like with one of those like spears that you have to like break up the dirt of hard soil, right? When the soil is hard, you can sow the seed, but the seed won't take root, right? You need soft, broken, aerated soil to be good soil that can like take the seed that's planted and grow it. And so that's what's happening with our heart right now. We're breaking through that tough ground and we're working that soil so that we have fertile ground for new consciousness, for new growth, for new ideas, for new insights. You know, there's always room for growth. There's always possibility of growth, right? Kanye, during the Super Bowl, had that website up with the t-shirt that had Slostafuzz on it. And like a little while later, it's like he had a moment of clarity and he re-released the statement. He was like, upon further reflection, I just realized that I am not a Yahtzee. It's like even Kanye can have moments of clarity. You can change your mind. People can change. They can change their mind when they wake up, So don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on life, on humanity. Keep with it. Keep doing the inner work. Keep showing up to your dreams. Keep showing up to bringing beauty and goodness into the world. But this week, I think that there's going to be something that reveals something that's been deep in our heart, right? It's going to reveal our shadow nature for us, to show us what's been infecting our heart. And by healing this and by purifying this, whatever is infected, this attitude that's infecting our heart, it's going to make way for the transformation and for things to flow more freely through our life. Because when we share affinity with the light of God, with the light of the Creator, when we act more like Jesus Christ in our consciousness and in our actions, who is the physical embodiment of the Creator. So if you want to know what God would act like as a human being, just look to Jesus, and that is the example that we were given to become like. So when we are becoming more like that and adopting that consciousness and becoming more like the Creator, that having that vibrational resonance draws us close to the Creator, like, right? When we share affinity with the Creator, we draw close to Him, or the Creator draws close to us when we have affinity. That means that we're in that miracle zone where we're in flow, right? And we are being blessed, and we have favor and protection and guidance, and we feel that divine inspiration that's guiding us and leading us and opening the doors, right? And everything's with this deep fulfillment and rest and peace and trust. But when we are not sharing affinity with the light of the Creator, and we get reactive and we get mad, we get jealous, or we have evil eye, or we have prejudice, or whatever it is, we get lazy, or we want to be selfish or receive for the self alone and at the expense of others, or leaving others out, or what have you, that does not share likeness with the Creator. That does not make us more like the Creator. It makes us less like the Creator, and thereby cutting off our blessings, and cutting us off from that blessing and that protection and that flow, because we're dissonant. We're not resonant with that anymore. So we really want to do some digging and be willing to look deep in our hearts and search ourselves, right? One of the practices of preparing for Passover, for the exodus from Egypt, from the ego, from the addictions and the illusions and the darkness, is that we clean our house so thoroughly that we check every room for even one crumb left behind of a breadcrumb. And that bread represents the ego, right? The yeast that rises, that's our puffed up ego rising. That's fear rising and stopping us and keeping us small. That's our arrogance rising up and keeping us, from seeing the truth of something, or to be able to ask for help or delegate or whatever it is, right? So we look for all of those crumbs. We do the digging. We dig deep, and we were thorough. That's those, like cleaning the house and looking for the crumbs. That's representative of us searching our mind and our heart and our soul for those crumbs left behind that are thwarting us and keeping us held back. All right. Ooh, let's see. One of those. Ooh, the Goddess. So really getting into that, the divine feminine, the Goddess, the internal world, right? Searching ourselves on the inside. What's in our soul? What's in our spirit? What's in our heart? What's in our, what are our feelings coming up right now? We need to observe that. What is our intuition, our intuitive guidance telling us and directing us? the God's nurturance and provision and protection, that's the feminine side of God. That's the Holy Spirit. The Shekhinah is the feminine side of God that hovers over and brings us fulfillment and blessing and goodness and wellness. And it's that nurturing influence over spirit, right? So we want to really appreciate, be in appreciation, appreciate all the goodness that we have in our life, all the goodness that we enjoy. When we are in joy, the Shekhinah can be in our presence. But when we lack joy and we're separated from joy and we are in despair, the Shekhinah has no affinity with that, so it can't come close. So to draw that close, be in appreciation, be in gladness, right? Be in a state where you can receive. Put yourself in a state where you can receive the light of the Creator, where you can receive goodness. The feminine is receptive, right? Preparing the vessel to receive the light. A good example of this is like, I feel like I've prepared my vessel to receive like understanding when I read the Bible or scripture, through my efforts to understand the meaning behind things. It's like that effort. I built the vessel to be able to read and have the page light up to me and have revelation about it, right? And that's not just for me to understand, but it's so that I can share with others. That is literally the example and meaning of preparing the vessel to be a greater vessel to receive, to not be a vessel to receive for the self alone, but to receive for the sake of sharing. So being a vessel that can receive, and we can only receive as much, like our vessel, the size of our vessel is dependent on our self-worth. How much do we feel we're worthy of receiving? How much do we feel we deserve, right? And the strength of our vessel, how much we can, the capacity to hold what we've gotten is based on our faith, right? Our certainty. Do we trust? Do we believe? Or are we going, is that belief and that faith fragile and is going to break, and we're going to spill out what the light that we receive through our reactive behavior, right? All right, let's grab one more card. Ooh, revelation insight, big revelation and transformation this week about both the past and the future and how the past has shaped us and the correction that is required now to move forward. I think that the choices that we're making now are going to have a big impact on the direction that our life takes. So be very intentional and be very conscious about what you choose and what you decide to put your energy and focus and intention into. Because I think that a lot is being decided right now. We have support. The main thing right now we need to do is make sure that we are connected to source, connected to God, to Jesus, to the Holy Spirit right now. We need that support. We keep seeing this, like the spinal column and the curvature of it, right? It's like we need to, this theme of this, like expose the spine here. It's like we need to be flexible, but we need to be strong. We need to be adaptable and fluid, but we need to have courage and strength, and stability, right? Proper alignment. We need to be in proper alignment. Stay strong, stay focused. Another thing about an episode of The Chosen that really stood out to me over the last few days, the one thing I think is profound about that show is that no matter how many times I rewatch it, the episode that I'm watching that day has like a poignant and specific thing that I need for that day. And so one of the recent episodes that I had watched was when they're preparing for the Sermon on the Mount, and the Roman soldiers come to arrest Jesus because they want to take him in for questioning. And the disciples are beside themselves. But when Jesus leaves, he's like, everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna be back. Continue on. Keep keep on the production because like the show must go on, people. And the whole time he was gone, they were like beside themselves. They're all arguing with each other about like what they should do. Should they bust him out of jail? Should they go get him? Like, should they keep planning? Like, you know, but they don't keep planning. They do everything but not continue to just stay calm and keep planning for the big day, for the big sermon. And so he comes back. He gets out of questioning. He goes and works on his sermon, and then he comes back after he's done. And he's coming back into the camp, and it's late, and they're like, oh my God, Jesus, where are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I've been working on my sermon. How's everything coming? Are we all ready? And they're like, we've been beside ourselves. We haven't done anything. We were so worried about you. Why didn't you come back and tell us you're okay? And he goes, I told you it was going to be okay. Did you not trust me? Do you not believe me? Do you not believe who I am? Like, I told you I'd be back, and I told you all to keep working. And they're like, well, we were just so scared, and we were so worried about you. We just couldn't carry on. And he's like, you can't fall apart every time you get scared. He's like, it's only going to get worse from here. We're going to be more and more persecuted for what we're doing. And things are going to get worse, and they're going to get scarier, and it's going to get harder, and you can't fall apart. You have to keep it together. And that has been the thing that I've been continuously telling myself, even though I've been falling short many days. But I can't be bent out of shape. Right? For so many of us light workers here on this channel, this is what we've been preparing for, times like these. And so people need us now. They need the people who have already gone up the trail a bit. You know, we know the lay of the land, and we can help them along, right? And in order to do that, that means that right now we have to be strong. We have to be stronger than we want to be. Because everybody else is either ignoring, you know, the state of things, and they don't understand like the precariousness of it all, or they're beside themselves and they're overwhelmed and they need someone to be strong for them through this, you know. And so we've got to, like in World War II, when that keep calm and carry on came out, it was encouraging the British people to stay strong and be about it, you know. Keep putting on your boots, keep walking, keep showing up, you know. Keep calm and carry on. We don't want to bypass, we don't want to, you know, have toxic positivity, but to a certain degree we've got to do the healing work and then pick ourselves up and continue on and keep doing our chores and keep paying our bills, and we have to be functional in all the kingdoms of our life, right? In the material kingdom, you know, we got to keep taking the trash out. We got to keep taking care of ourselves. We got to keep showing up. We got to keep cooking those meals. We've got to, you know, take care of our mental health and watch our thoughts and watch what we're watching and what we're listening to or we're taking in. You know, we've got to manage that. We've got to manage our ideas and keep putting our creativity out there. We've got to watch our emotional world and stay on top of our emotions and, you know, make sure that we're not getting totally drunken and misguided from our feelings, right? We need to be dispassionate and discerning as well, but also pay attention to our feelings, but not be controlled by them, right? We've got to watch our spirituality and watch our confidence and watch our belief and our fire and our will and our drive, you know, and stay connected to Source, who's going to give us that strength and that valor and that courage to keep going when things are tough. So I am in it with you, but the days are getting brighter and longer. And there is still beauty to be enjoyed. So enjoy and love one another, and may peace be with you. See you all tomorrow.